What up, people? Let's ramp this bad boy up. You can watch this in a variety of different ways. Twitch.tv/Gallant Says, YouTube.com/Paul Gallant. You can also watch it on different ways. Twitter, Twitch.tv. Or I guess it's called X now. You can also watch it, I guess, on my Instagram at SportsGallant or at Facebook.com/Paul Gallant Sports. Guys, what a wonderful day it is as your beloved Houston Texans took down the Tennessee Titans, who were cosplaying as the Houston Oilers 19-16 in overtime with a walk-off 54-yard field goal by Kaimi Fairbairn, who had two long field goals on the game. Thanks to Kaimi Fairbairn, thanks to an incredible performance by the Texans defense, and thanks to Devin Singletary, they now stand at 8-6. Hello, and welcome aboard the Gallant Says podcast on this Sunday, December 17th of 2023. My name is Paul Gallant. You can hear me weekdays 10 to noon, ESPN 97.5 and 92.5 on the Paul Gallant Show. That was one gritty fucking win by the Houston Texans in Nashville today. No CJ Stroud. No Will Anderson, no Nico Collins. Tank Dell's out for the year. You're without Blake Cashman, arguably your best linebacker, and doesn't matter. Texans went into Tennessee and I think delivered by far the best defensive performance of the year. And here are all the ways that they did it. 7 sacks, 2.5 of them by Jonathan Grenard. You would be surprised to know that Jonathan Grenard has 12.5 sacks on the season. Pretty damn good. 11 quarterback hits, 12 tackles for a loss. I'm not going to act like I know what was going on in coverage, especially thanks to the CBS camera guy who was a disaster today, but Steven Nelson had that interception. Derek Stingley made a really nice play on the ball, and the Texans were able, in coverage, to limit DeAndre Hopkins, who had a great performance on Monday against the Miami Dolphins, to just 2 catches for 21 yards on 9 targets. Derrick Henry, who had run for 200-plus yards against the Texans in 4 of the last 5 games against Houston, 16 carries for 9 yards. And honestly, if not for a couple of YOLO passes by Will Levis, who at the very least is a fun quarterback to watch and has some balls, I don't think the Titans offense would have done much of anything. And take a look at the entirety of the game. The Titans opened up with that 11-play, 83-yard touchdown drive that ended with the QB sneak by Levis for 6. And then not too long later, Case Keenum throws a pick 6. And you're not feeling good about yourself. But after that, here are all the drives that the Texans allowed after that opening touchdown drive. 6 plays for 32 yards, ends in a punt. 6 plays for 9 yards, ends in a punt. 5 plays for 15 yards, ends with the Steven Nelson interception. 3 plays, negative 17 yards. 5 plays, 26 yards. 8 plays, 19 yards. That one actually got the Titans a field goal. 6 plays, 18 yards. 3 plays, 1 yard. 6 plays, 13 yards. 5 plays, 5 yards. That was a hell of an outing by the defense. And it's a shame that we didn't see that from the Texans defense against the New York Jets the week before, because the New York Jets don't have nearly the same weapons that the Tennessee Titans do. But hey, you can only control the game that you're playing, and a very shorthanded Texans team deserves a shit ton of credit for what they were able to do on the defensive side of the ball. I think we got to give some credit to arguably the 2 most important Houston Texans. It's weird to say that, but that does happen in a game where CJ Stroud can't play due to a concussion. Devin Singletary, when Stroud is unhealthy, is the most important Houston Texan. It's very weird to say that, but especially with Tank Dell out for the year and Nico Collins possibly out for a while, and of course Stroud not playing, like really he was the entire Texans offense. He had 26 carries for 121 yards. He was averaging 4.7 yards a carry. The Texans only gave the ball to other running backs twice. They were doing those little speed sweep things with Steve Sims, which weren't great, and I think they had one to either John Mechie or Xavier Hutchinson, maybe both. But Dario Ogunbowale and Damian Pierce had one carry each. Singletary had the 26 for 121. He had the big 41-yard reception that set the Texans up on that last-minute drive where they ultimately kicked the game-winning field goal. Fuck, man. He was great. Motor, as they call him. And, you know, I still think that Damian Pierce is a more talented player, but Singletary runs his ass off, made a couple of nice plays in the open field, and behind an offensive line that's also dealing with some shit right now. You know, you got Charlie Heck playing right tackle, and Juice Scruggs, who is very young and kind of getting thrown right into the fire after missing all of that time. Like, that offensive line did what it needed to. Maybe not the best in pass protection. I think that's why they started Case Keenum over Davis Mills, because Keenum has a little bit more mobility than Davis Mills. My God, that Hail Mary that Davis Mills almost threw. Whoa. That was a little bit concerning. But Singletary right now is the Texans offense. Hopefully CJ Stroud will be back Christmas Eve against the Cleveland Browns. So that this game goes a little bit easier perhaps against Cleveland on Sunday. And we'll talk about the AFC playoff picture in a moment. Someone asked a question about it. Can you explain how the tiebreaker works? That's from Tyler Kyle, youtube.com/PaulGowan. I'll be honest, I have no clue. It's very confusing, the NFL playoff picture. I saw on the NFL's website, it said that if the season were to end today, that the Texans would be in the playoffs, but I saw another graphic that said that the Texans would be out of the playoffs if the season ended today. I think part of it has to do with the fact that you got to wait until the thing updates by the end of the day. But yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, because the Colts have beaten the Texans, you would think that the Colts would have the tiebreaker there. So I'm honestly not 100% sure how any of it works. I wish I did. Sorry, I can't help you there. The other most important Houston Texan, and I'm going to try to say his name, John Christian Kaiminoaloamika Aikioke Kumapu Fairbairn. It's fucking nails, dude. That guy has missed one field goal all year, and to not just hit one, but two 50-plus yard field goals in a game where the Texans offense was operating with its hands literally behind its back. That was huge. And I mean, if the Texans had Kaimi Fairbairn against the Jacksonville Jaguars, we're probably talking about the first place Houston Texans, which is just incredible to think of. We'll see what happens to the Jacksonville Jaguars tonight when they take on the Baltimore Ravens. But there is a chance that at the end of the day, the Texans, the Colts, and the Jaguars are all 8-6. It's been a crazy year in the AFC South. At least it's been entertaining. We've had so many boring years in the AFC South. Like, at least Tennessee, or the Houston Oilers as they want to call themselves, at least they have a bit of a pulse. But man, really impressive performance today by the Houston Texans. Also, shout-outs. Noah Brown. Case Keenum was just throwing to Noah Brown to open up the game. 8 catches for 82 yards. He gets the game-tying touchdown in the fourth quarter on a drive that definitely had me biting my nails a little bit. Dalton Schultz had a couple of nice plays as well. Good to see him back out there. 4 catches for 58. Other players, I mean, there's so many guys on defense. I loved seeing Christian Harris smacking Derrick Henry and jawing with Derrick Henry a couple of times after laying the lumber on him. I thought a good game for Denzel Perriman. Of course, there's no Blake Cashman out there. Desmond King's really been coming into his own. He led the Texans in tackles. He had a sack. He had 2 tackles for a loss. He had 2 QB hits. He's really good as a blitzer, Desmond King, and also in run support as, you know, one of those nickel corners. So big game from him. He's been really good since the Texans brought him back into the fold. He didn't have a very good preseason. That's why they got rid of him, and he was, I think, in Pittsburgh for a little bit, but he's been good. I mentioned Grenard. Malik Collins had a sack and a half in this game. He and the defensive line, Sheldon Rankins, Derek Barnett, Khalil Davis. Really impressive performance by the guys up front. Jimmy Ward seems like has a concussion. We'll see what's going on with him. He's just had some shit luck this year when it's come to injuries. But really, like, that was the best defensive effort of the year by the Texans. And, I mean, they really fucking needed it. More comments here. Joseph Ramos comments, youtube.com/Paul Gallant. Yo, let's go replacements. Let's go indeed. And it was awesome to see Case Keenum under center. Now, there are some limitations with Case Keenum, but if you want a wave of nostalgia, whether you're a Coug and you love what Keenum did in his 23 years at the University of Houston, or you just remember that this guy's had a couple of separate stints with the Houston Texans and has come in relief duty. He did at the end of the 2014 season after the Texans dealt with all those injuries at quarterback. Obviously, in 2013, he came in for Matt Schaub for a bit, and it led to some very delusional Cougs fans believing that Case Keenum was the future. It led to me hating Case Keenum fans. I called them Keenum truthers. But over time, here's what I am. I'm a lot like a reverse hipster. When everyone starts to hate on something, that's when I start to like it. But in the situation with Case Keenum, I think after a while, things I don't like, I come to ironically like them and then seriously like them. I don't know what it is about me. Maybe it's a bit of a contrarian or something like that. Or maybe I'm just a troll. I don't know. I think a lot of people would accuse me of that. But for whatever reason, that's how I roll. So I'm 100% flip-flopping. If you have been following me long enough, you can probably dig up some old tweets of me talking shit about Case Keenum fans or Case Keenum too. But that was I thought, very good, all things considered, effort by Keenum. He made a couple of impressive plays along the way. Definitely some near interceptions, like that play that he threw to Dalton Schultz in the red zone. What in the actual fuck was that? And there were a couple other ones too. The ball bounced like straight up in the air. It looked like it was going to get intercepted on that. Like, definitely made you grab your clackers for a little bit. That's for damn sure. Ooh, that's a funny comment from Toro McJohnson. Bud Adams was looking up in disgust. That implies he's in hell. Or he's 6 feet under. One or the other. Word Deuce comments, D-lines save the game. No doubt. No doubt. B. Hannon says, Colts are 7-3 with Gardner Minshew at twitch.tv/Gallant says. Yeah, I think Shane Steichen's the coach of the year for the Colts. They've been doing a really good job. My Kitchen is Dirty says, hey, if you can pronounce Kaimi's whole name, I'll cash app you $50. I mean, I did do it. Did I not? I don't know if I pronounced it correctly, but I did do it. So how about those $50, bro? Tyler Kyle says Christian Harris had a game. I was stunned by how different the Derrick Henry experience was this time around. Because honestly, if there was one thing that I think about the Texans that can be had, I do think that the defensive line is something that you can take advantage of. And I don't know if this was a Titans offensive line, which was the big problem here, but Henry just couldn't get going. And I think that the broadcast, and one of the only decent moments for this broadcast, which I'll discuss a little bit later, one of the only decent moments was them talking about how, I guess, D'Amico Ryans told his defense to try to make Henry shuffle his feet, because when he gets going, he's obviously very difficult to stop, but he never really was able to get going. It looked like he was always looking for somewhere to go, and he couldn't pick up steam, and the Texans were doing their swarm thing and getting to the ball. More comments here. Fizzle. I missed Pineapple Guy. Love the way he kicks the ball. Is that racist? Pineapple Guy for Kaimi Fairbairn? Jacob Ayers comments, Paul, you look more legit in that Stetson than Mike Vrabel ever will. Well, I reckon that I owe you a thank you. That's why I'm wearing the hat, because Mike Vrabel was wearing a cowboy hat before the game, I guess to honor Bum Phillips. I don't know if Amy Adams Strong told him to do it. Whatever the case. Dude, if you're going to wear the hat, wear it all game. You can't wear it before the game and not wear it during the game. Come on. What are we doing here? I felt like that was bad omen for the Tennessee Titans, who are cosplaying as the Houston Oilers. And they should feel very embarrassed that this elaborate trollsmanship. And that's what it was. That's really all it was by the Adams family here. It's just trying to, just like Bud Adams has done a couple times, just directing a couple of middle fingers towards Houston. I think the uniforms look great. It's the most valuable piece of independent property that or IPO, whatever it is, intellectual property that the Titans own. So I get it, but it's fucking weird that they never wear it, and it's because when they moved to Nashville, which was a very, very messily done move, when they moved there, the people in Nashville got sick of them rolling with the Oilers. They were like, hey, like, you haven't even figured out your stadium. It doesn't seem like you're, trying to embrace Tennessee. Can we get like a more Tennessee-themed nickname? And somehow they came up with the fucking Titans. I don't know how they came up with that. We're talking about like Greek mythology in fucking Tennessee. People can't even read there. What are we doing? But it's weird that they've waited this long to wear them, because they didn't even wear those uniforms when they went back to the AFL throwbacks in 2009. The AFL throwbacks for the Oilers is the light blue helmet, and they don't look as sharp as the white helmets. They don't. And with the red face masks. It looks kind of shitty, to be perfectly honest. So they wore those back in 2009. Then they started wearing these, but the way that they've gone about, like, showing, like, yeah, these are our uniforms. Like, they're great uniforms, but it is a middle finger to Houston, and I don't get why they were so gleeful about promoting it. So they deserve to lose this. And I mean, that's very Oilers, no? To blow a lead against a team with a third-string quarterback. I mean, we've said same old Texans or classic Texans earlier this year. Texans going to Texans, but the Oilers going to Oiler. Like, that's what we know about the Oilers. Up 35-3 on the Bills. They blow it. And if they want to own the uniforms and own the history, well, you own that history. That scar never happened if you're a Houston sports fan. They own the history. They want to own the history. By their logic, I mean, 35-3, that's on them. Losing a Super Bowl by 1 yard because it took forever for the Titans offense to show up. That's on them. Being the 1 seed 3 times, losing the first game they played as the 1 seed in the AFC playoffs each time. That's theirs. It's a history of losing. The uniforms are fucking sharp, though. I'm not going to lie. They look so much better than the Texans. I think the Texans had something where they posted, like, this is what we're wearing this weekend. It's like, guys, stop. Just don't. You're wearing the same road uniforms that you always wear. What else do we have here? YouTube.com/Paul Gallant. Or Relio Corona says the Titans can keep their Oilers choking history. Hell yeah. Thunderbolt713 says Keenum wins. Keenum mania, baby. B. Hannon comments, twitch.tv/Gallant says JJ wants the uniforms back. I saw that he posted, yeah, this is how it works. If you lose the game, you lose the right to the uniforms. Huh, I don't hate that. It was weird, as Mofo Joe 713 comments, weird watching us play them while wearing our throwbacks. Yeah. Texas Tax, shout out to you for the $1.99 donation. Appreciate it. What else do we have here? YouTube.com/Paul Gallant. Emphasis on bum, says Jono Monster 94 when talking about Bum Phillips and Mike Vrabel trying to pay him homage. Tyler Kyle asks, do you have any thoughts on why Singletary is having more success than Pierce? Is it a vision issue? Is it not being able to find the gaps? I think it's a style issue for Pierce. Pierce wants to just run as quickly as he possibly can into the line of scrimmage and take people out. And, I mean, he's got some real natural ability, but I think that his running style doesn't mesh with a scheme that asks its players to be patient. So I think that's the big issue for Pierce versus Singletary. That's just not what Pierce's forte is. Where with Singletary, who does have some power of his own, it is. I feel for Pierce. It's got to be frustrating, but you also have to be able to pick up the offense. And I wonder if in the offseason the Texans think about trading him, because he is a very good running back. But it does feel like this just isn't a fit for him for whatever reason. Molonlave 21 says the Oilers will always be Houston's colors. That's true. Chandler Evans says a nice brim. clown. Oh, yeah, Chandler Evans is the guy with like 5 Facebook accounts that's constantly on here. Ooh, Kyle Blair. It's Kyle Blair. Is it football time in Texas? Kyle. Kyle, you sweet boy. Yes.
It's football time in Houston, and we're ready to play.
It's always football time in Houston. Love me some Clay Walker. Thunderbolt 713 comments. Mills would have lost 100%. Yeah, he would have lost. No doubt about it. I mean, that one play where they brought in Mills for the Hail Mary, Jesus Christ. What a fucking disaster that was, right? Like, he's running around in a circle. He's holding the ball out like a loaf of bread. My God. And he just can't move. So the big issue for Mills in a game like this, behind an offensive line that's clearly got some limitations with no Titus Howard, and obviously all the, turnover that they've had at center this year and on the interior as well. You need to have somebody who can move. And Mills is just a statue back there. He's got a cannon for an arm, but he just doesn't have the same ability to elude defenders that Case Keenum has. So they made the right call in turning to Case Keenum for this game. I'm glad we saw it. John O. Monster 9 comments, how are we feeling about Bobby Slowick's play calling recently? Well, I do have a couple of nitpicks about Slowick. One, the Steve Sims sweeps. What the fuck are we doing? What are we doing here? I don't understand why they got to get cute with guys that aren't named Tank Dell. And Sims does have some juice, no doubt. Like that, he had a nice punt return. He's fast. But, the first play that they did the speed sweep to him, he's got to trust himself that he's fast enough to get to the corner. Like, he's a fast player, but he turned it upfield too quickly. And I think he had Robert Woods as a perfect shield for him, potentially, between him and that blocker, and he cut upfield. As someone who used to not have the best vision myself when I played high school football, there were a lot of moments where I could have gone to the outside if I trusted my speed. Instead, I would cut it up because I was trying to take the short yardage instead of the big yardage. And then the second speed sweep where it just bounces off of Sims. Jesus. That's the kind of shit that'll get you cut. So I think they're trying to find some sort of dynamic element in the offense with all these guys that they have. And Sims, I guess, has more of a chance to do that than Mechie and Xavier Hutchinson in their eyes. And so that's why they tried it with him. But no, they got to stop that again. The last drive of the fourth quarter, they opened it up with a 19-yard run, but then afterwards they tried to throw it 3 times. I don't know what that was, because you had your timeouts, running was working, and passing is dangerous with this Texans offense on a day like today. Like, you only want to pass if you're in a desperate situation, especially with how good Singletary looked. So, I don't know. I would have run it a little bit more there. They obviously got the ball back before that Davis Mills Hail Mary. And then the very first series of overtime. I mean, they're lucky because they put themselves basically in a huge potential hole. First play of overtime, you throw it, and Keenum gets sacked. Second play was a screen. They lost yards. They get sacked again. Like, behind that offensive line, that's just not what you want to do. And luckily, there was a hold, so the Titans ended up with the ball, I think, at their own 41 or something like that, and they weren't able to do anything with it. But those are 2 issues where I looked at Slowick, and I was like, I don't know. But all things considered, I mean, you got to MacGyver your way into having a functional offense today, and somehow, despite it being Case Keenum under center, they made it work without Nico Collins as well. They do deserve a lot of credit for it. More comments, youtube.com/Paul Gallant, twitch.tv/Gallant says, facebook.com/Paul Gallant Sports, or on X @Gallant says. Not gonna lie, says Mofo Joe 713. I'm glad that Zach Wilson got his ass beat today. Why the fuck didn't it happen Sunday? How did he look so good? Especially if you have the performance that you did today against the Titans team. I don't know what Will Levis is going to be, but Will Levis does have some playmaking ability. You shut down DeAndre Hopkins. You shut down Derrick Henry. That Jets offense had nothing. It was just Garrett Wilson. So it does make last week a little bit frustrating. And also the not having Kaimi Fairbairn deal. I'm still thinking about that game against Jacksonville. I mean, they win that game with Kaimi Fairbairn as their kicker. No doubt about it. More comments here. YouTube.com/Paul Gallant. Hopefully Baltimore does us a solid and beats the Jaguars tonight. Yeah, that would be nice. That would be nice. It's definitely possible. So, schedule for the Texans the rest of the way. And the playoff picture, I'm not going to lie, I'm confused because I've seen on multiple websites that, like right now, the ESPN website has the Texans as the 8th seed. The NFL's website has the Texans as the 7th seed. So, I honestly do not know what to tell you. I'm confused. One or the other should be right. You would think the NFL's is right, is the one that's most correct. And I'm seeing a couple of people commenting, well, this is why the tiebreaker is X, Y, and Z. Okay, maybe not. Like, I don't know. I don't know about that. What else can we discuss from the game? We got to talk about the CBS broadcast team. What in the fuck was up with them today? So, let's just start with the basics. Who the fuck was operating the camera? How many times in today's game did you feel like it was a first-time camera guy who was trying to figure out where a ball had been thrown downfield, and he took so long to track and find the actual ball that you didn't really know what happened unless you saw a replay of it? And the big thing with CBS that sucks is CBS does not show replays very often, especially during a challenge. When a challenge happens, they won't show the replay once. They will go straight to commercial. Usually a play and a half will happen, and then they will show the replay a couple of plays later, which is fucking maddening. I get it. You got to go to the commercial break and show me some commercial where some person's taking a drug and they're walking around and having a great life while they list all the side effects of the drug. Like, taking Ozempic could result in super AIDS or spontaneous combustion or all of your friends hating you. Like, and then they're like smiling and walking around. Meanwhile, we're trying to figure out what the fuck happened in the football game. If there was actually a reason for this challenge to be thrown. Like, was it actually close? We don't know. And then all of a sudden they just go right back into the action and say, well, the challenge, it worked, or it didn't work. And then you got to wait like a couple more plays to figure out what the fuck happened. I don't get that. So the camera guy, terrible in this game. And CBS is always bad like this, but I got to say that the play-by-play team as well, Spiro Ditas and Adam Archuleta. So Ditas has always been a tad irksome to me because I remember routinely when he would be on the call for a Texans game and the Texans had all those guys with D in their first name, Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins, Deontay Foreman, and he would always fuck them up. Like and then he'd say like Deshaun Watkins, and like it was bizarre. He would just have all these brain farts and he'd like confuse all the names together. But in today's broadcast, there were just a lot of moments where they were flat out fucking wrong. Ditas had a couple of moments. Ditas said, like, hey, we're not going to show you the replay of that Will Levis injury. Levis is standing on the sideline at the end of the game. He seemed like he might have been okay. I don't know. But Ditas made it sound like the worst thing in the world had happened to Levis. And then on the sideline, he's just standing there like he's totally fine. Meanwhile, Adam Archuleta just has word diarrhea and always feels the need to make the people watching the broadcast know that he was right with what he initially saw. But there were a couple of moments where he was just dead wrong with what he saw. And then he like tried to defend it. It's like, dude, no one cares. Move on to the next play. Like, sometimes when you see the replay, you're going to think differently than what you thought you saw in the moment. So the camera people, the inability to watch a challenge, which is a regular thing with CBS, but also Spiritus and Adam Archuleta. Jesus, that was just a fucking dreadful broadcast. And far be it from me to critique play-by-play and color commentary, but like I just thought technically they were bad. Bad. It's not good. YouTube.com/Paul Gallant. You can join on Twitch.tv/Gallant Says. On X @Gallant Says. Tall Stacks at youtube.com/Paul Gallant comments. Do we get in the playoffs with 10 wins? I don't know. I do know that as I'm recording this right now, that the Buffalo Bills, and I guess that game's over. Yeah, the Bills kicked the Cowboys' ass 31-10. So that game has gone final. So Buffalo's 8-6, Houston's 8-6, Indy's 8-6, Cincy's 8-6. Cleveland won again today, so they're 9-5. I don't think 10's a lock. I think to be safe, you're going to have to win out. Now, it does help that you will play Cleveland and Indianapolis again. But say you lose to Indianapolis and you have 10 wins and they're 2-0 against you on the year. Like that is not a spot you want to find yourself in. So I don't think 10 is a lock. It'll definitely go a long way. Let's take a look at the Colts, the Bengals. That was a gritty win by the Bengals on Saturday in a game that had no business being that good with Jake Browning and Nick Mullins for Minnesota. That was a great game. And I like that a team can win with a backup quarterback, sort of like what we saw today with Case Keenum, obviously. So next 3 games for the Bengals: at the Steelers, at the Chiefs, home game against the Browns. Okay, so there's a little bit of cannibalization going on here. For the Browns, they played, of course, the Texans. They have a home game against the Jets on the 28th, at the Bengals, the last game of the year. That's looking pretty favorable for Cleveland. I feel like Cleveland's going to make it based off of that schedule, which is incredible because Joe Flacco's fucking under center. I guess in the Bills-Browns game, the Browns-Bears game, the Bears tried to throw a Hail Mary at the gun and it like almost worked. But I guess the guy who caught it in the end zone dropped it or something like that. Was it Darnell Mooney? I think it was Darnell Mooney. What else do we have here? YouTube.com/Paul Gallant. Luis says, I felt like this game was karma for them using the Oilers uniforms against the Texans. Yeah, I do too. To lose to a third-string quarterback, and Keenum was the third-string quarterback going into the week, that's pretty fucking embarrassing. So for it to go down like that, you just hate to see it, as the kids say. EDF1919 asks, why couldn't we have Kevin Harlan and company for the game? Because Kevin Harlan deserves better than a Texans-Titans game, no offense. And there are some good games this week. I don't know which broadcast Harlan was on. I would not be surprised if Harlan was doing, let's see, CBS game. Was Harlan doing, I bet Harlan was doing Miami, New York. I could be totally wrong on that. Just a wild guess. But that's not really a better game. Is it? Jets were winning. It's the New York market. They want the bigger boy broadcaster. What else do we have? Toro McJohnson. Tannehill was stoked to see Levis injured. Tannehill, his little warm-up stretch that he had, which was completely pointless, right? I mean, there's only like, how much time was left when Levis got hurt? Like 2 minutes? Like, right? It wasn't the 2-minute warning in overtime. It had just hit, and they were about to punt the ball anyway. So it's not like like Tannehill was going right back out there on the field. It was pretty funny to see Tannehill like just jumping around. Like, this is my shot, my opportunity to get back in there, to seize anything I've ever wanted. Milan Lava. I'm sorry, I can't read. Comments, youtube.com/Paul Gallant. Cowboys can't handle the freeze. The weather was supposedly nice for the Bills-Cowboys game today. The Cowboys were even surprised. More comments, youtube.com/Paul Gallant, twitch.tv/Gallant says, as far as the schedule, the Bills are the other team that's competing. They got the Chargers and Pats next. Yeah, the Chargers are not playing for the rest of the year. And I think for the Patriots, I thought that the Patriots might win today because Belichick was saying we're on to Kansas City. Nah, it didn't happen. And especially now that everyone knows that, or seems to believe that this is Belichick's last year there. He didn't deny it. Rick the Ruler 713 about Bobby Slowick. I think Slowick should be fine. Slowick is fine. Fine is a perfect way to talk about him. He's not going to be perfect. I think we have constantly gone back and forth too much from saying one day, wow, Bobby Slowick's going to get hired away as a head coach. And then another day when we're talking about Bobby Slowick, we're saying about him, he's fucking terrible. No, he's one or the other, but he's not both. He's definitely not like the extremes that he's made to be. And it feels like we forget what we said about him the week before when we come up with our extreme take about him. Like, I thought, considering that they were working with a third-string quarterback and had no weapons, that they did a good job today. And the game plan was simple. Give the ball to Devin Singletary, and that's what it should be probably the rest of the way. You hope that the Texans' injury luck is something that, knock on wood, does not bite Devin Singletary. YouTube.com/Paul Gallant, twitch.tv/Gallant says, why is Cincy the 6th seed? The Texans beat them and have a better conference and division record. Because there's no God. No, I'm kidding. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know how it all works. I feel like the playoff standings might actually even change from what they're at now. But it is bizarre to me that, yeah, the Texans have the tiebreaker over the Colts. The Bengals have the tiebreaker over the Texans. I think it's because of like everyone having the 8-6 record right now. I think that's the main reason for it, but it's fucking bizarre. YouTube.com/Paul Gallant. Milan Lave says they have the better conference record at the moment. Yeah. Do they? Honestly, I don't even know. I just refreshed the playoff picture. Let's see if it's different. Yeah, see, now the Texans are out. The Texans are out now. All it took was an end of that Bills game. So right now, based off of the NFL playoff picture, the Browns, Bengals, and Colts are in, and the Texans are out, and the Bills are out. Yeah. Dumb. But that's what happens when you lose to the Jets. Don't do that. YouTube.com/Paul Gallant. Twitch.tv/Gallant says, I see there's some arguing going on. Or clarification going on with the tiebreaker. Yeah. Sorry, I wish I had more answers for you. I just don't. I can see why Mike Vrabel didn't wear the hat all game. I mean, it is a little warm, this hat. This is one of those like $50 ones I got at Cavender's. Ain't fancy. Anything special. Can I pull off a cowboy hat? Do I seem like somebody who would wear this on the sideline as a head coach? Do I seem like that? Or am I coming off like a completely full of shit fraud? Is this accent any good? Should I move into Southern Gentleman, Paul? I do declare the fine people of Tennessee, we do deserve to wear these Oilers uniforms, and all these Pauls in Houston should shut the fuck up and stop complaining about what they let come to us natural. Oh, natural, my sir. Shredder says it works. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate it. What else we got, guys? I'm pretty pumped, and we're going to talk more about this on tomorrow's radio show from 10 to noon. A very satisfying win. Best defensive effort of the year. I think we're learning that Devin Singletary and Kaimi Fairbairn are two of the most important Houston Texans, which is definitely something I doubt we'd have said going into the year. And, I mean, this has been a fun ride. This was a fun game today. Definitely had me, clinging on to my nuts a bit. But from the get-go, the defense just fucked that Titans offense up. 7 sacks, 12 tackles for a loss. Derrick Henry had 16 carries for 9 yards. DeAndre Hopkins had 2 catches for 21 yards. I mean, it was a great performance. And we'll see if they're able to do it again Sunday against the Cleveland Browns team that is quarterbacked right now by Joe Flacco. looking at Flacco's numbers from their win over the Bears today, 20-17. He threw for 374 yards. But he also threw 3 interceptions in this game. Amari Cooper had a big day. David Njoku had a big day as well. Cooper had 4 for 109 and a 51-yard, or was that the 51-yard touchdown? Njoku had 10 for 104. It is bizarre to me that the Browns keep winning. And honestly, you talk about Coach of the Year, Shane Steichen with the Colts. I think he's probably my top candidate, but what the Browns have been doing without Deshaun Watson or with a hobbled Deshaun Watson for much of the year, it's really been incredible. So Stefanski deserves it, and honestly, I thought Stefanski should have been out of a job after last year. YouTube.com/Paul. You look like the live version of Woody from Toy Story. That's funny. Texas tags comments. Texans aren't even good, completely inconsistent. Texas fans need to be realistic. They're overachieving right now. Yeah, don't be a Debbie Downer right now. Don't be a Debbie Downer. We can wait for Tuesday for that, you know? Yeah, I think we all know that there's a limit as far as how far this team can go. But at the same time, it's fun, right? No one expected this going into the year. I don't think anyone's saying they're a Super Bowl contender or anything like that. But, I mean, they just won a game with a fucking third-string quarterback on the road. What else do we have here? David Phillips says, I love Case Keenum. Was able to get the W. We don't have to hear the Titans say they beat us in a throwback. Yeah, thank God. That was very nice. Shredder asks, Paul, if CJ is still in the concussion protocol next week, who gets the start? It's going to be Keenum again. I doubt behind this offensive line that they're going to put Mills out there. And maybe it would be different if their offensive line was healthy, if they still had Titus Howard, if they still had, their starting center at the beginning of the year. Maybe there's a chance, but yeah, I think it's going to be Keenum again, especially if they won, Kind of feel bad for Davis Mills, but then you saw that one Hail Mary play, and you're like, you know what? Like, that was a Hail Mary. That should have been a very easy play. We got more people asking about the tiebreakers. That's funny. Earthworm Slim. 8-6 is overachieving that no one expects. Should be more wins, to be honest. Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right. Joseph Ramos comments, I can't stand Vrabel. So glad they beat him with this team that had 5 starters out. It is funny, the Vrabel era of Houston Texans football, because Vrabel as the linebacker coach did a very good job, but then they elevated him to defensive coordinator to, I think, keep him from going and getting a head coaching job elsewhere. They wanted to keep him around. And then as defensive coordinator, like, the Texans defense took a step back, and you're wondering, is it Vrabel's fault? And then it seemed to get better with Romeo Crennel back at the helm when Vrabel, of course, left to go coach the Titans. So it's very weird. I like Vrabel personally because I grew up a Patriots fan. But the stuff that was being done this week was trolly in nature, and I get it. Like, you're paying homage to Bum Phillips, but if you're doing it in Tennessee, like, why are you doing it? And I think the nice part about this is it is closure in a way, right? Like, this is the last time that you will see the Texans play against the Titans while they're wearing the Oilers stuff without having their own version of the light blue color, because they're going to bring something out that involves a light blue of their own in the draft this coming year. Joseph Ramos, why do it against the Texans? Because, let's be honest, like, it was a cunty move. Like, the Adams family kind of stays on brand, right? Like, they're an ownership group of poors. They are, I think, the 18th most valuable franchise in the NFL. And maybe that goes up when they get a new stadium, but they're basically, like, strong-arming the city into building them a new stadium. Because guess what? They can't afford their own one yet. How many owners would, even if they could afford it? That is a great question. But, I mean, they've been stripping off parts going into the year. Like, Levis has been fun for them, but, I mean, they got rid of A.J. Brown. They were trying to trade Derrick Henry in the offseason. And they know that the one thing of note that they own, like the only thing that separates the Titans from the dregs of the NFL is the fact that they have the Oilers uniforms as their own intellectual property. Like no one understands the history. I think they honored Billy White Shoes Johnson today. Oiler great. And I bet not one of the people that was there had ever seen Billy White Shoes play. And I'm exaggerating a bit. I'm sure there were some people from Houston that were at the game and they're like, oh yeah, I remember Billy White Shoes when he was with the Oilers. But it's weird, and I feel bad for the players more than anything. I think the players get screwed over the most, the guys who played in Houston that don't get to get honored in Houston. Luis comments, the Titans ownership is so petty. 100%. And I mean, if we want to be somewhat empathetic, I get it. Like, imagine if a city was an asshole to your dad, even if it was merited. After the fact, after the move. Like, people here hate Bud Adams. So if people hate your dad, are you going to be like, you know what, they have a great point about my dad? Or are you going to be loyal to the family and you're going to want to be petty back? You're probably going to be the latter, you know? So I do understand it, and I will give credit to Amy Adams-Strunk, who at the very least honors all those old Oilers players. But, I mean, this whole thing this week was, to be frank, cunty. I'll say it again. It's awful. What are we doing here? Other than trying to piss off an entire city. Like, that's all that they did there. Because they could have worn this any other week. And that they lost in those uniforms is fucking glorious. Seriously. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up. I don't really have much more to say unless you got anything else to bring to the table, but I appreciate you guys joining me. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe. If you're a newcomer to the YouTube channel, I appreciate it. It's also on Twitch if you're more of a Twitch person, twitch.tv/GallantSays. I'm on Twitter as well, @GallantSays. You can watch it on X if you want. If you're a Facebook person, facebook.com/PaulGallantSports. It's also available in podcast form, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. Leave a rating and a review on that as well. Until tomorrow night, so long, farewell, and have yourselves a wonderful